Hey guys, what's going on? Once again, I want to apologize for being so sporadic with the posts. Life has been totally different for me this summer, and some really good, cool ways, but that leads to some randomness in these videos. So here's another one coming at you, still doing Jesus 101, still on the YouTube page, so you can go check that out. You can just search Andrew Bowman if you want to find my YouTube page and kind of go with that. And we talked about how Jesus was eternal. He didn't show up just 2,000 years ago, but he has always been from the creation of all things. All right. So today we're going to look at Jesus in the Old Testament. Now the Bible talks about Jesus in the Old Testament, but it never says Jesus who's going to be born here. It shows it hints. God was always about salvation to his people through the sacrificial death of his son Jesus Christ. And so it is just absolutely woven throughout history. And so the Old Testament has some pictures of this. Genesis 3:6 being a big one, when God curses the serpent and talks about how he's going to send a son of Eve to crush the head of the serpent. And the interesting thing there is he doesn't call him a son of Adam. He gives this to Eve, which is really odd in a patriarchal society when it comes to genealogies. And so we see this picture with Isaac having to carry his own wood for the sacrifice that God was calling Abraham to, and all these things that we kind of seen in Old Testament heroes. I'd encourage you maybe go back and watch one or two of those. But we see how in the Old Testament, God was pointing to the coming of Jesus Christ. That although we first see Jesus' name mentioned as Jesus in the Greek New Testament, in Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, and there's a whole reason why that's significant, but we won't get into it now. But Jesus was foreshadowed in the Old Testament. We are going to miss tons of who God says he is if we only read or think about the New Testament talking about Jesus. In fact, when we read the Old Testament, Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, on and on and on, we should always be looking for Jesus in pointings, in mentions, in foreshadowing, in pictures of people's lives, and all these things. So Jesus 101, today's lesson, Jesus is in the Old Testament. The Old Testament is actually all about Jesus. So I'd encourage you, check that out. Love you guys.